Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of our Node.js and Sequelize application. So in the first video, we set everything up. We set our Postgres database up. We set up Node with Express and Sequelize. We created a model. We created our gigs routes file where we can fetch our gigs, but there's none in the database yet. So what I want to do now, before we start to work on handlebars and the HTML and creating the interface, I want to just make sure that we can actually add stuff to the database. So I'm going to create a new route here, and let me just label this one that we already did. So this will get gig list. All right, and then we're going to go under here, and we need a route to add a gig. Now, ultimately, this is going to be where we submit our form to. It's going to receive a post request, but for right now, I'm just going to do a get request and manually add in the data, and then we'll change it up after. So let's say router.get, and you never want to add data to a server through a get request. This is just for the purpose of adding the data. We're going to change it after. So let's do /add. And let's do request response. Okay, so I'm just going to create an object of data. So let's say const data. This ultimately, again, this is going to come from the form, but for now I'm just going to hard code it. So let's do title. Let's say looking for a React developer. And then we'll do technologies. Let's say React, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and we need a budget. Budget, I'm going to say $3,000. We need a description. Description, I'm just going to grab some dummy text. I'm going to go to lipsum.com. and just generate some paragraphs. And I'm just going to grab not much, just let's see, we'll grab that much text. Okay, so we'll go back in and we'll paste that in for the description. And let's add in a contact email. And I'll just say user1@gmail.com, and that should be it. The updated at and created at, we're gonna let Sequelize handle that. Let's see. So now that we have this hard-coded object, let's use a little destructuring to pull out the variables. Okay, so we're gonna say, we want to say let. Did this wrong. So from the data, we want to pull out the title, technologies, budget, description, and contact email. Okay, so we're pulling all that stuff out from the data object. Now to insert, let's say insert into table, we want to take our model, which is called gig, and we want to call create. Okay, so create is going to take in all of that data. So let's say, and the way that we would do this is we would say title, set that to the variable of title. Now since they're both the same, the column in the database we're inserting is title, the variable is also title. So with ES6 we can actually just do that. We don't need to repeat it. So we want title, technologies, description, budget, and contact email. That's all of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 5, not 6. Yeah, so that should do it. Now this is going to return a promise, so let's do .then and .catch. All right, so it'll give us back the gig, I believe, and all we're going to want to do is redirect, but right now we have nothing to, well, actually, yeah, we'll just redirect back to gigs, which is this route right here. So let's just say res.redirect to /gigs, like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this, and hopefully we can add this data in. So let's go to /gigs/add. Okay, so it redirected us back to gigs. Now, if we go to our console and we take a look down here, we should see right here, ID1, title, looking for React developer, technologies, description, budget, contact, email, created at, updated at. Awesome. So that worked. We were able to insert a record into the database. So if we want to check that in pgadmin just to make sure, I mean, that is making sure, but just to kind of check it in a different way, let's go to call, let's see, what do we want to do here? Gigs, and we want it to view data, all rows, and there's our data. So let's actually add one more to work with. So all we have to do is change up the data here. So we'll say simple WordPress website, and we'll change the technologies here to WordPress and PHP, HTML, CSS, budget, let's say 1,000. We'll leave the same text. We'll use user2@gmail, and we'll go ahead and save this. And now when we visit gigs/add, it should add that data. Okay, and if we go back and we look in the console, we should see both. There it is, simple WordPress website. So we have two entries in the database. Now, once we get our user interface set up and we have our form, we're going to change this stuff up here for this route. But right now, I want to focus on getting our interface set up. So let's go back to app.js. And since we're using Express handlebars, we actually need to add some middleware here. So we're going to go, let's go right below where we initialized Express, and let's put in that middleware for handlebars. So I'm just going to put a comment here, say handlebars, and we just need to do an app.engine. There's two lines we need to put in here. So app.engine, and we're using handlebars. Then we want to put in our exp_hbs, and that takes in an options object, and we just want to say default layout, and we're going to use main. So basically with handlebars, just like many other template engines, you have a layout that wraps all of your views, and your layout has like your CSS style, your CSS links, everything that's in the head tag, anything you want on every single page is going to go in your layout, and we're saying that we want that to be called main.handlebars. All right, then we just need to do app.set, and we need to set our view engine, and we want to set that to handlebars. Okay, so that should be all we need for our middleware. Now let's create a folder in the root called views, and we want to create inside there a folder called layout, and like I specified here, we have main, so we need to create a main.handlebars. All right, now main.handlebars is going to handle all of the pages except for the home page, because the home page is a little different. It has the large background. The header is a little different. So that's actually going to have a separate layout page. So I'm going to create another layout called landing.handlebars. Okay, but let's take care of the main handlebars first. So I'm actually going to go to my static HTML files here that should be in the description. You'll have a link to get these files. And let's open up, the index page is the landing page, so that'll be the landing layout. Let's open up gigs HTML, and I guess I'll open it with VS Code. So here it's pretty simple. All we need is the head stuff. We also want the header, okay? And notice it has a class of inner. That's because the inner pages have a different header than the index page or the landing page. So we'll just copy everything from here, from gigs.html, and we'll go to main.handlebars and paste that in. And then we just want to delete everything under the header. So this section right here, basically just this section, we want to get rid of that. Okay, and we want to output our views here, so we want to put in triple curly braces and body. So that's where it'll output any views that use this layout. Okay, and then let's see, as far as the navigation, we're going to change this to slash. That'll go to the index page. This will go to /gigs, and then to add a gig, that's going to go to /gigs/add. And let's have this, this is the logo, we'll have that go to slash. And we use Font Awesome. As you can see, we're bringing in Font Awesome. Now, as far as the CSS, we're going to need to have a place to store the CSS as well as the image. So we're going to need a static folder in Express. And we're going to call that public. So right here, we're just going to say /public/style.css. All right, so actually, no, we don't need to do public. What am I thinking? Since that'll be our static folder, we don't even need to add that. So yeah, I think that's all we need to put in this layout. So let's save this, and let's create a folder called public right in the root, and then we're going to bring over from the static HTML folder, we're going to bring over CSS and image. So I'm just going to copy that, and then I'm going to bring that into our project, which for me is in, let's see, code prod and code gig and public, and we're going to paste that in. Okay, so it just has the style CSS and it has the background image. All right, so now that we've done that, we need to declare that public folder as our static folder from Express. So let's go back to app.js. Let's go under where we put the handlebars middleware. Let's say set static folder. So we just do that with app.use, and we'll take Express and call .static. And in here we're going to use the path module. We're just going to use path.join, and we want the current directory, so _dir name, and then we want to go into public. Okay, so we're just setting that public folder as our Express static folder, so that in our main layout we can just simply look at CSS style CSS, and it'll look in the public folder for that. Okay, so let's make sure we save that. Good. So now that we've done that, let's go back to our gigs. Not that. We can close that up. Let's go back to gigs.js, and right here, which is the /gigs. Right now, it's just sending 200 status. We obviously don't want that. We want to render the gigs template, okay, or the gigs view, which we haven't created yet. But let's just go ahead and we'll get rid of the console log, and we're going to say res.render, and we're going to render a view called gigs. Okay, and then we want to pass in some data, so we're going to put in an object, and we're passing in gigs. And remember, we got gigs from right here when we did the find all, so we can go like that. Now, since both of these are the same, we can simply just do that, and that'll pass it in. So let's save that, and let's create this gigs view, our template. So in views, not in layouts, but just in views, we're going to create a file called gigs.handlebars. And just to make sure this is loading, let's just put an H1 here, and let's just say gigs template. And we'll save this, and then let's go back to the browser and go to /gigs and reload, and there we go. So you can see it's wrapped in the layout, it's wrapped in the main.handlebars layout, and then it's displaying the view or the template. Now, one thing I forgot to do in the layout is add a container. I don't want it way over here. I want it in the kind of in the middle. So in our main.handlebars, where we have the body right here, let's just wrap this in a container class. Okay, we'll just move that up there. So it's just a bootstrap class to push it into the middle. and save. Let's go back and reload, and now it's pushed in the middle. Okay, so now we want to list all the gigs out here. Remember, we have 2 in our database, so what we're going to do is close up main.handlebars. We don't need that. And we're going to open up our static HTML page. I shouldn't have even closed it. Let's go code gig HTML. We're going to open up gigs HTML. And let's see, we're going to grab the whole section, everything we deleted for the layout. We're going to take that and copy it, and then let's put that in gigs.handlebars. All right, now if I save that and we take a look, it shows 3 gigs, but this is not coming from the database. This is all hard-coded. What we need to do is loop through the gigs that are in the database and output each one with this layout. So let's go back and let's make this a little smaller. Actually, we can make this much smaller. So for each gig, if we look at the markup, it has a div with the class of gig. Now we only need one of these because we need to loop through and then output one of these. So let's get rid of this div and this div. Okay, that way we only have this one div with the class of gig. And to loop through the gigs that were passed in, and this is why I really like Handlebars, is it's so easy. All we have to do is say $ each gigs. All right, and then we can put an else, because if there are no gigs in the database, then we want to notify the user of that. So we'll just say no gigs available. And then down here, we just want to end the each. So we can just do /each. And then we want to take this whole div right here, cut it, and we want to put that inside this each. Okay, so now for each gig, it's going to display this. Right now, it's all hard-coded, so let's change out the hard-coded data with actual stuff from the database. So here's the title. So we should be able to just put in double curly braces in title. For the paragraph, let's say description. For the budget, let's do budget. And for the link here, we're just going to do, let's see, we're going to do a mail to. So let's say mail to, and then we want to put in the contact email. For technologies needed, inside the span right here, let's replace that with technologies, and that should do it. So let's save this and let's go back to our browser and reload, and there we go. So now it's actually taking the data from the database and it's displaying it in our layout. So now I want to focus on just building the rest of the interface. So let's go back into VS Code and let's go to our gigs route. So routes/gigs.js. And right here, the add a gig, this is ultimately going to be a post request, so we want to change that. The get request to add is just going to display the form. So let's do that. Let's say display add gig form, and that's going to be router dot get /add. Okay, and then all we want this to do is res.render, and we're going to render a view called add. So let's save that and let's go into views and let's create a file called add.handlebars. And just to test it out, I'll put an H1, say add, let's save it, and let's go back. And if we click add gig, now it's just showing add. So let's grab the markup for this in the static HTML. So this add.html, I'm going to go ahead and open that. And what we want to get is this whole section right here. So copy that. Let's paste that into add handlebars. And let's save this. And now if we go back to the browser here and reload, we have our form. Okay, so let's see, we have our add gig displayed, we have all gigs. Now we need to work on the home, because right now home just says index. So let's go back and we're going to create the landing.handlebars markup. So let's go back into our static template here in the index, and we're going to open up that index. Okay, so we're going to grab everything here and go into landing.handlebars and paste it in. And let's see, we're going to just get rid of this section right here. And we're going to put in our triple curly braces and body. And we don't want to wrap it in a container like we did in the main.handlebars, because we're not constricting it to a container. And then up here, let's change our links. So let's do /gigs/add. We could create a partial for this menu because we're kind of repeating ourselves, but it's fine. Let's do /gigs/ and this will be / as well. And that should be it. We're including /css style.css. I think that's it. Yeah, so let's save that. That's the layout. We can close that up. And now we want to create inside views. We want to create an index view. So let's create a file called index.handlebars. Okay, so this is where the section is going to go. So if we go back to that index.html, we want to just grab this section right here. And we want to put that in index handlebars. Okay, so we'll save that, and now we can close up the HTML file. Now to display this, we're going to head back into app.js where we have our index view. We'll just say, index route, I should say. And now we just want to render res.render index. But one thing we need to do differently is we need to include the landing layout. So with handlebars, if you want to use a different layout than the default, which is main, we put that right here, then we can actually add in an extra object, and we can say that we want to use the layout of landing. So let's save that, and let's go back to our browser and reload the index page, and there we go. So now we have the index, we have the home, we have all gigs, which actually displays the gigs from the database, and then we have the add gig form. So I think this is a good place to stop now that we at least have the interface. In the next video, I want to add functionality to this form so that we can add a gig through the application, and then also we need to add the search functionality so that we can search by keyword. All right, so that's it. I'll see you in part 3.